So far in this set of workshops, we've been able to map our mutations through to structure and generate nice static images that we could include in posters. Wouldn't it be nice to capture some of that motion, moving things around in videos so we could put them in presentations and so on? Well, we can. Chimera has a good number of options that will allow us to do that, and I'll take you through how that happens. It's actually pretty simple. There are a lot of commands with Chimera. If I click through here, you can see on the Chimera user guide there is a large number of commands on the side. Here it's got some really useful ones for movies. Let me find the movie commands. There's a nice set through here, movie related commands, so a whole load of ones for movies. This is a really good reminder of all the different movies that moves and movie commands that we could want. When we create a movie, the best thing to do is to create a script file, and we can load a script file then into Chimera to play back exactly those commands we want. We can set the timings in that, and we can adjust it bit by bit to get exactly the result we want. Chimera will record in real time if you want, so I could set it to record exactly what I'm doing now, and you would then see that, but that's a bit clunky and not very satisfactory in the long term. So we're going to create a script file. I use Notepad++. Here's a little script file I created earlier, but I'm going to create a new one. And when you're doing a script file, it's always useful to have the commands to load in your structure of choice. If you want to do that, it's also a good idea to get rid of anything else that was in the workspace beforehand. So I would normally close all, and then I can open, for example, to BBS, my structure that I want. I can then put in the commands to get it ready as I wish. So I can tilde show everything, hide everything. I can tilde show or tilde ribbon to turn off the ribbon for colon dot B. That will turn off the ribbon for chain B, and I can do whatever coloring I want. So color green colon ATP, color red, that seems like a nice color, colon 655 to color that particular residue that we looked at previously. I can display that residue in chain A, so we'll then see that behaving as we want. And this is fine, that gets us coloured, but that's just still in the same orientation that the molecule came into. Now we do have ways of setting the orientation specifically, so we could tell it to turn a certain proportion or to scale a certain proportion. Those can be quite tricky to use to get exactly what you want. So my preferred option is to use the save pos command, and we don't use that in the script. We'll do that outside the script when we're going to use save pos and fly. And I'm also going to turn the surface on. So let's just turn the surface on for chain A in my script file. And this might seem a bit strange, but bear with me. I'm going to set it to 100% transparent. So transparency 100 S. Okay, so that will make the surface visible, and then we will promptly make it invisible again, but we'll see why that happens in a moment. Okay, so let's get to that situation by saving the script, and I'm going to save my script in, I've got a directory Chimera here, I'm going to save it as I think example.com. You can see I've been playing around and doing a few previously. So there's example.com. I will save that. And now I can go back to Chimera, up to the File menu, Open, go to my directory. I've already gone there. Click on the file that I want to open, and I can select as file type Chimera commands. So I'll select that, click Open, and it will automatically then run those. It's deleted everything, got rid of the bits we don't want to see, shown what we do want to see, and added the surface and made it transparent. Okay, I'm missing my ATP, so I will go back here and display colon ATP dot A, so the ATP from chain A, and I know that's going to work fine, so I will just put that command in on the command line rather than replay the whole script. So we can capture those commands and replay them at will. Okay, there's my ATP. Now let's say I want to start in, that's a bit too zoomed it out. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, I'm going to want to start here, and then I'm going to want to tip like this, and then I'm going to want to zoom and move and go in a bit. And I want, as I do that, the surface to appear so you can see what's going on with the molecule. So let's go back to where we want to start. Okay, zoom out a bit. That looks like a good start. And I want to save that position. I'll call it pos1. So I'm going to save pos, SAVEPOS, a space, and then a name. No spaces in the name. I'm going to call it pos1 for my first position. I'm then going to zoom in and drag just a little. That's probably a bit too zoomed in. That's better because I want to see the alanine up there in my video. Click out just one more there. And now I'm going to save that position as pos2. What was pos1? Well, I can do that by reset to pos1. I'm back to pos1. Reset pos2. I'm back to pos2. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I can just jump between saved positions. Now let's turn that a bit. Oh, I'm getting a bit lost here. Let's get this back to exactly where I want. There we are. And I'm going to zoom in. Oh, drop that down just a little. That's going to be a great view there. And I'll call that pos3. So I'll save pos3 there. You could do whatever you want with positions and so on. Okay, let's go back to pos1. Remember, it's reset pos1. And now we're going to fly through them. If I use the command fly, pos1, and then I can say how many steps I want to take. Now by default, Chimera will go at 25 steps per second. So 25 steps will be 1 second in the final movie. So let's take 2 seconds, 50 steps to go between pos1 and pos2. And then 75 to slowly zoom in to pos3, so that's 3 seconds. So this should take about 5 seconds. Let's see what happens. There we go, and it calculates the most optimal path through there. That looked really nice. Okay, so we know what that command is. Let's copy it, Control-C, and we're going to put it into our movie. Now I'm going to put it in right at the end, and I'm going to leave a space here to start recording our movie. So we're going to put in the command movie record, and we can put in the size of movie we want. By default, it'll take the screen size. And after my command, I'll have movie encode output and then the name of the file we want to save, example.mp4. By default, it'll save in the latest MP4 format, should be playable on pretty much anything. One more thing we need to do, when you give Chimera a command like this, which goes over a number of steps, it will start that command and then move on to the next command. So if we go like this, it will start that fly and then finish writing the video before it's finished flying through. So we need to tell it to wait. Now, whilst it's flying, I'm going to come back to that transparency. I'm going to make the surface appear. So we're going to say transparency, and let's go up to about only 30% for the surfaces. And we're going to do that over 100 frames. So it's going to start the fly, and whilst it's flying through, it'll increase the density of the surface so you'll be able to see it. It'll wait till that's all done, and then it will write it out to a file. If I put those two, just reset to position 1, reset to pos 1, there we go, and let's find the fly. If I put a semicolon after it, I can put 2 commands on the command line. So then I can do the transparency. Oh, there's one thing I forgot on that command. I'll have to go back and edit that. Transparency 30, S, and I need to tell it I'm going over so many frames, 100. You can do it for just a certain part of the molecule. And if I run that, it'll do both of them together. Now it's having to think a bit now because it's calculating the transparency, but you can see as it's flying through, it's gradually making the structure clearer and clearer. When it saves the movie, it records each frame individually and will then put it together. The end movie will not be this slow when we play it back. And whilst that's doing that, clickety click, I will just remember to put the frames keyword in here and save it. Let's go back to Chimera. Here we are. It's just starting to tip back now, and we can fly right down into that active site groove. Once it's finished doing the necessary image writing, it will then encode all of those into the movie. Now let's go back to our script. Before we record, let's get it back to pos 1. Okay, so that's back into pos 1, and that's all ready to go. Let's click save. Back here, file, open, and we want to go to example.com. It's still remembered where we were. Open that. It's created our molecule, added the surface, made it transparent. Go back to pos 1, and now it's recording the movie and is going to write that out to file. Let's wait for that to finish, and then we can have a look at the movie we've created. There are loads of other commands that you can use to add in. You can change the background color, you can set shadows, you can do really fancy ray tracing and all kinds of things. Have a look at the commands, find interesting things to do and do them. Try it out. The worst you're going to do is waste a little bit of time. You're not going to break anything. So on you go. There's a challenge. Write yourself a nice script file, load in some structures and create some movies. I'm really keen to see what you can come up with and how you can best visualize your structures. So here we've gone right in, you can really see the cavities in the protein structure that will lock in a substrate. Once it gets to the point where it's not having to recalculate the surface, it should speed up a little bit. There we go. It's sped up a bit. Bear in mind that each of those pictures has been written to disk, each frame, and now it's using this FFmpeg program to combine those and make a movie. We'll see that movie come up here. Example.mp4 is writing that. Currently not available. Only 0 bytes in there. Wait for this program here. Wait for this to finish. It'll only take a little while. My laptop is rather slow, so just have to bear with me. Okay, we've got example.mp4. I can just open that in whichever file I like. Oh, I've got a bit of a dodgy video on my computer, doesn't like that.